Welcome back, everybody. So I'm kind of in limbo on what we're working on today. I'm still trying to decide, but I think we're going to work on the front end here in this video. So we got the firewall done and the hood latch area and stuff, or the hood, you know what I'm talking about, that whole side done up there. But what we got to do is we got to make some mounts for the fenders and figure out how we're going to tie all that in to get our front stuff mounted. I've really been questioning a lot on how to do this because I want the motor to be easy to pull out. So still trying to decide how we can make all of this stuff easily removable. I'd like to have it to where we can just leave the fenders on. Obviously there's going to be a radiator and an intercooler up here somewhere, so well, maybe an intercooler. There's going to be some stuff up here in the way, and I want to be able to take that stuff out easy, and I also don't want that bar going across the front here to make it really hard to get this big-ass motor out of this tiny engine bay. I did finally get my riv nut tool in. I am limited on the amount of riv nuts I got because I didn't order any new ones because I didn't know what kind we were going to use yet or anything like that. I'm going to get to trying to plan some of this stuff out and figure out what we're going to do, and then I'll get back to you guys in a little bit here. Alright, so I made a little bit of progress. As you can see, I have a front end back on, sort of. So what I got going on was, first of all, this was a little tricky because this line where the fender mounts is not straight. It's only straight till about there. So what I did was, if you can see this on camera, is I cut some notches in here and kind of got this bar so that we can bend it. So as you can see, it kind of lines up here, and it's going to be, tight up here, and when we tack it all together, then we'll be good there. Same thing on this side. I put the turbos back on just to kind of make sure stuff wasn't getting in the way there. What I'm trying to figure out now is the front end, because obviously I don't want to have this bar here. So we also don't really need it. The front grille mounts it used to slide into some kind of slots here, and then it had two mounting points that I can see all the way at the edges here. And there's 2 points here, but I don't think the grille mounted there because I don't see anything unless it's broke or missing off of my grille where they mount here. So really what we need to do is we need to get two end pieces for the grille, and then we need to get something on that bottom. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut a square piece of tubing that'll fit right underneath of this square here. That'll come out to about the end of the turbo. And then there used to be body mounts here. So I think we're going to come straight across here and then kind of go boop right down to there and make that one unit. And then obviously once we get that all in, that takes care of our fenders and everything up there. Fenders, that piece up there, and the hood can all stay attached when we pull the motor out, which will be great. That also gives us plenty of clearance here. The turbo manifold ends about here, so if we keep that bar tight on an angle, right around the edge of that turbo there, we'll have plenty of room to have the manifolds come straight out without any issues. So I think that's going to cover all of that. And then, again, we don't really need this centerpiece for our hood because we're not going to use the latch. We're going to have hood pins. So we'll end up putting a plate like here in the corner to put a hood pin through and a hood pin through, or they'll go through this bar or something like that, depending on what looks best. So we're going to go with that for right now and see how it turns out. And then obviously we got some rubber bushings here in these spots, just like they used to be. We'll probably have to cut some kind of larger plate to go over that. We need to get some of this done, obviously, so we can figure out what size radiator we're going to put in here, size of the intercooler and stuff like that, and figure all that out. Oh, man. I just had to kind of stop here and show you guys because, oh, God, this thing looks so mean. I love it so much. As you can see, I got all the front end pieces on here. They're literally all just held on with clamps right now. I had the hood sitting on there too, but it doesn't fit right because of the clamps on the top, obviously. But, my God, it looks so aggressive right now. It's insane. Makes me so happy. I almost want to cry. I was looking at this now, trying to figure out what to do with this bottom part here, because I actually really like this lower portion. But obviously we're going to have to lose quite a bit of it because, you know, we need a radiator and an intercooler and possibly a transmission cooler up here. So, you know, we got to figure out how to fit all that stuff in here. Most of this just isn't going to work. But I might keep these windows here on the lower half of each side. And, you know, I might keep those and weld them to the fenders. I'm not really sure. Or we might just recreate something all new. Maybe our transmission cooler goes inside one of those windows. Transmission cooler and oil cooler on the other side when we decide to run one. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take all this stuff back off. There's the whole front end completely put back together. I spent about 4 hours this morning just kind of getting gaps lined up. I put both doors on. Both doors line up pretty good. This one needs a little bit more work down there at the bottom, but we have no place to mount down there right now because I made new rocker panels. So, but gap looks pretty good there. It's a little tight at the bottom, but we're going to fix that. That's just because, again, it has no place to mount down there. This door gap is perfect. This fender is a little bit warped right here, so we just got to... You can see this piece is behind this piece, so when you open the door, it almost touches. It's very close. But we just got to bend this piece out just a little bit there so that they line up, and then that'll be good to go, but the gap looks good. These corners are a little tricky. You can see if I push this piece all the way down, it's not quite level with the hood or the fender here, but obviously we can just put like a little spacer in there, and everything is close enough for me. I mean, it's not perfect, but I mean, it's within a 1/16 of an inch. So, you know, everything looks really good. The hood, gaps down the hood look very nice. Both sides lined up pretty much perfect. Again, this part looks a little funny to me because you can see this gap is bigger than this gap, but it's the same way on the other side. It's like the hood is just a tiny bit shorter than this cowl. So, but yeah, the cowls on there good. This side's the same thing. If I push this down, it's not quite even, but we'll just put a little spacer in there, or we can bend that lip up a little bit. I would love to get all of this fully done, which would be amazing because obviously I have my... I have these bars inside here that still need to be welded, and I'm going to cut some more of that metal out down there and everything like that. But the problem is, I bought a riv nut tool and immediately broke one of the mandrels for the riv nuts, which is, of course, M6, which is the size bolts for all the fenders and everything like that. And I don't want to have a bunch of weird mismatched bolts. So I have to wait for the new mandrel to come in. It's not going to be here for about a week. But yeah, it's looking good. There's one thing, anybody that owns a 720, if you can tell me what is going on here, I just don't understand. So, as you can see, I put my corner lights in. They're in. The grill is lined up perfect with the corner lights, but there's a huge gap here. Like, huge. It's like an inch in the middle. So, it's definitely a little bigger here than it is here, and I think that's just because the grill is old and it's sagged a little bit. But, I feel like maybe there was some piece of, like maybe rubber or trim that may be attached to the hood that's supposed to be in here. Or maybe not. I don't know. But it looks pretty good for what I have right now. I'm pretty happy with it. I got this piece screwed on right here because, again, I need to make some mounts for the fenders to hold this part before I can cut this middle piece out. But, again, I broke my rivet tool. So I don't want to just weld them on because then obviously we won't be able to take them off easily. So I want to put some riv nuts in here to, you know, make some fasteners for these fenders before I cut this middle out. I think this is going to end up being a video, so I don't think there was any time lapses or anything. This is basically just me putting stuff together and talking, so if you watched the whole thing, thank you. Well, I filmed an outro and everything, and then I got home and this showed up. So now I get more to do. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this radiator to fit in here, and hopefully it does. But there's one that's a little bit... So this radiator is out of for a Chevy S10 or a Blazer or a couple different vehicles, but basically an S10 with a V8 swap. So it's about the biggest radiator I could possibly fit in here. There's one that's a tiny bit smaller that's out of a Corvette, but I wanted to see if we could get the bigger one to fit in here, and I think it's going to. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, start mounting that and see if we can get it to fit in. Alright, so it's in there. Looks sweet. Fills the whole space behind the grill. Plenty of airflow. And the only spots it's hitting right now is right here at this corner and that corner on our mounts. But it's not by much. It's actually sitting on the pegs on the bottom right now. And so we can just clearance those a little bit just to give it some room, because it fits now, but it's like just really close to those brackets. So we'll go ahead and clearance those a little bit. And then the only other spot it hits, this is all totally clear. The only other spot it hits is right here on this fill. And we're going to keep that fill because that's going to be the highest point in our cooling system, because as you can see, the next highest point is the neck here. And once we get the LS1 water pump, that outlet comes out of the front here. The only other spot that's a little bit of a concern is, as you can see, the outlet right here is very close to our exhaust header. So we're going to have to think about that a little bit. Maybe we'll put like a 90 here and have it come out this way instead. That way at least it's a metal piece here. Obviously it's going to do a little bit of heat transfer just because this is so close. But we can also wrap this part of the header. I do have some exhaust wrap. I didn't really want to do that because obviously once we grind this down and polish it up, it's going to look pretty. But if we have to, we can do that. But I don't think we're going to need it. I'd just be more worried about the rubber hose here melting. So maybe if we put a 90-degree tube here and just kind of make it point out this way instead, then I think we'll be good to go. We're going to end up mounting it right to these bars. So we'll also weld some tabs on here just to, we'll have 4 spots. We'll put some riv nuts in these bars that we mounted here, and we'll just have some aluminum tabs that come over that just bolts right onto there. All right, so I got my tabs all mated up. They're all welded on. Obviously, I've said this many times, not the best welds. Not the best welds at all. But they're on there, and they're going to hold. So, and I did it myself, so I'm happy. All 4 brackets on, just cut the nuts off the bottom. I got the holes drilled. I put some rib nuts in the rails here, and we should be ready to bolt it right up. I might have to move that turbo again because that bolt's kind of behind the manifold. But, ready to bolt it back up and see how it fits, and hopefully it fits in there good. There it is. Everything fits. It's literally in there on its own now, tightened in there. I cut the nubs off the bottom. It's not touching here. I clearance these edges. Not touching there. Looks sweet. The only thing I have left to do is clearance this little section for the cap, which I don't even know if is necessary. Oh man. No, we're good. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera or not, but we got about 1/8 of an inch between the hood and the cap. I love it when a plan comes together. So like I said, I already filmed an outro for this video, so we're going to have to film another one now. So obviously radiator in. Now the question is about the intercooler, which I'm still trying to decide on, but I'm waiting for one more part. So I got an ACT Alternator Relocation Kit, which is going to put the alternator there. So the intercooler is going to mount somewhere right here in the middle. Basically there's 2 kinds of intercoolers I can use There's one that has an outlet out of the back, which I was thinking about putting underneath here and having go back underneath of this frame rail. There's also one that has a 2 lower ins, and then the 3-inch out is like up here. So obviously the inlet parts are really easy. That's like a no-brainer. The part that's a little tricky is the outlet. So I'm waiting again for the alternator kit so that we can see where all the belt lays, because there's also a pulley that has to go here so that the belt has something to ride around. What I was originally thinking was going underneath and coming up in this opening, but I don't think that's going to work because there's going to be a belt here. And then this side is just way too crowded with the wooder necks and the alternator and everything like that. So what I'm thinking is, if we get the one with the outlet up here, and we go around this bar, which will bring us out somewhere in here, you know, so kind of turn it up, and then 90 right into the throttle here, right in front of the radiator. The only issue with wrapping around this way is when we put the tube in, it's going to be kind of close to this exhaust manifold. We're talking, if we put it down here near the steering box, we probably got about 4 to 6 inches between the intake tube and the exhaust. I really wanted to try to keep it symmetrical, but it's just really hard trying to jam all this stuff into the front of this truck. I could have mounted the radiator. The original idea was to mount the radiator in the bed, but it's just a lot easier and a lot cheaper for me to mount it here. When I started putting this thing together, it reminded me so much why I love this truck. Because first of all, this truck is an 86, which is the same year I was born. Yeah, I'm like 34 years old. And it also just looks sweet. I love the double headlights. I love how clean it is. I love the square body. It's my perfect Nissan truck. My dad used to own a D21, which is this truck's predecessor. I love that truck too, and I love this truck. And it's going to look even meaner once we got our intercooler down there, and maybe a transcooler. We might use the one in the radiator. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.